The team's kind of mindset is to kind of do this for Doosan, get these 2 wins specifically for Doosan, so we have that record?
I mean, Doosan's very popular in our locker room, as he should be, and and I think our guys are aware that he's approaching the win record. But I think the bigger picture in our locker room with our guys and our team is just we know we're competing for a regular season conference championship, and we have 4 games left, two on the road, 2 at home. And just the preparation and all that entails, to me is the focus right now. And we've done a good job maintaining our focus really throughout, and hopefully we can be at our best down the stretch. But I think that's what that's what they're thinking about.
Seems more recently, Doosan might hit a shot, Alonzo might hit a shot, and they look straight to the bench and maybe they flex or whatever, they're excited. Are you starting to see a little camaraderie between the guys that are playing on the floor and the bench in terms of chemistry that maybe you didn't see earlier in the year?
Yeah, I mean, every team, has its ebb and flow with team chemistry. No matter how good of a team you have or great of high character group you have, you're together a lot. And just think about your own life. You just have some days you feel better about things than others. So, I think we have a good group. I think our team really gets along, has always gotten along. We certainly have our bumps in the road, and there'll probably be some more. But I do think our team has a confidence about us right now. And, we've been at it for a while now, both practicing and playing games. And, everybody points towards the end, and the end is near. And sometimes that can really bring out the best in a group. And, again, hopefully that'll be ours.
What do you expect from the Oregon teams this week, especially Oregon State coming up back-to-back tough losses against the LA schools? What do you expect from the Beavers?
Well, they're a very physical team. They're a team that takes a lot of pride in their defense, their half-court defense. They do it by playing a lot of zone, not all zone. Even when they're man-to-man, they're very physical. I think Drew Eubanks is one of the more underappreciated or underrated players in our conference. He's very good. He's a great shot blocker. Part of Oregon State's physicality really is him. He's rugged, and he does it on defense and offense. He can hurt you in the low post. Runs the floor exceptionally well. He's agile, and he's very experienced. So the first game, we did not generate enough good shots. That had a lot to do with their defense. We had large segments in that game where we didn't play exceptionally well, and I think they had a lot to do with it. And we're going to have to be better this time around, for sure. Tinkle and Stephen Thompson, they combined for I think 34 points per game. There's two as good as scores as we've faced. And I think that 1-2 punch with Eubanks inside, and I think Alfred Hollins is continuing to play better and better as his freshman year moves forward. So they're playing well. There's a reason that those scores in LA were so close. That they could have won either game, and I think their level of play is really at a high level right now, especially considering maybe their starting point.
I was wondering if you felt like Oregon State or Oregon could be better, though, considering the players they have and everything. They've had some struggles. I know Oregon, of course, redid a lot of their basically the whole team, but are they about where you thought, or you think?
You're going to have to re-explain your question.
Well, I mean, do you think either one of those teams should be playing better? Does it surprise you they're not even?
No, I think they're fine. Hey, close wins, close losses. Sometimes in a given year, you squeak out a couple, 2 or 3 that could have gone either way, and once in a while it goes the other way. But Oregon and Oregon State are both very good. As close as Oregon State played this weekend, Oregon played even closer. So I'm sure there was some real heartbreak with them looking back at both games. They could have swept the LA schools. So, in Oregon, they have a tradition of winning under Dana Altman as well. So those guys, they're going to fight all the way to the end.
How
often do you want your team to go into transition? And I ask that question because against USC, you guys looked unbelievably good with the flow of getting out and running, of course. And then ASU, there were times where we were able to do it. But how often do you want that to happen?
We certainly want to run off misses. You know, we generate a stop, a block shot, a steal, a defensive rebound, and we've become a very good defensive rebounding team. That's one of the things we've done well on defense, but exceptionally well, I think, here recently. And DeAndre has a lot to do with that. But, you know, he triggers the defensive rebounding and being able to get the ball out. You know, I think that's when we're at our best. I really do. But in order to get out in transition like that, you have to get stops. And part of our problem throughout our year is we've had difficulty either not fouling or getting that stop, sometimes that key stop. When we've had moments where our defense was good, and we had really some great segments against ASU where our defense was good, it feeds to that defense to offense transition. On made field goals by our opponent, you know, that all depends. I mean, I think what we want to do is be smart, and sometimes we play a little faster than others.
But would you agree that you do look pretty good when you get into transition?
Yep.
Because of all the tools you guys have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Last year against Oregon and Eugene, 27-point loss. Obviously, a lot of that team is turnover in Eugene. A lot of your team's turnover. But the guys that played in that game last year, is there any? Do you think there's any extra motivation in coming back and you know, I guess trying to turn the tide at all? Or
I mean, there's a lot of new faces on both teams, and it's not only a brand new year, but we're, you know, because of the timing of the game, it's towards the end of the regular season. So a lot has happened since that game. But no, that's, you know, I've been in a lot of games, I guess, at this point, you know, as a coach, and that's one that's not easy to forget. It was like a video game. I don't think I've ever seen that many 3-point shots go in. At one point, I mean, he may have hit 8 or 9 in a row, maybe more.
Each team in the top 20, 25, at one point or another has been named maybe the next favorite to win the national championship, blah, blah, blah. Is this the most inconsistent year in college basketball that maybe you've ever seen?
You know, not really. There's just maybe not as big of a difference between those that are ranked really high and maybe those that are on the fringe of the top 25. You know, that parity has never been more, period. You can make the argument that it's never been healthier because, you know, part of what makes the NCAA tournament so captivating is the upsets and the close games and, you know, teams that you think are going to win don't, and, you know, everybody's bracket is shuffled, and, you know, it's the unexpected. And, you know, clearly the unexpected, you already know what's going to happen. It's going to be very difficult to predict a lot of games because there's less and less separation now than ever before. And I think there's a real easy answer to that. Those teams that are near the top sometimes are our youngest teams. And experience still matters.
How much of what you've seen from DeAndre this season is what you expected coming in?
Yeah, he's really surpassed my expectations, really. I mean, we knew that he was a talented player, but you don't know guys until they're with you every day. And, you know, now that here we are coming down the home stretch of our regular season, you know, he's just been very consistent. That's not easy to do for a freshman. I don't care how talented you are or how physically imposing you are, for a guy to do it day in, day out, game in, game out. And he's been remarkably consistent with his attitude, with his effort, with his preparation. As a matter of fact, what you hope to see in a young player, especially a freshman, is that they improve those types of things as the year's gone on. And I believe that's happened with him as well. I think he's more focused. I think he's more prepared. He pays attention to the details more now than he ever did. And he's been with us every day. I think he's missed one practice maybe since he showed up here. So he's worked hard, and he's done a great job performing in the games.
At the beginning of the season, you said you don't think you've ever seen a freshman as talented as him on day one. Now that most of the season has gone by, would you probably say that he's probably the best player you've had at Arizona?
Yes, I mean, and, you know, it's hard because you're judging people on 1 year, and in this case, you're judging him as a freshman, you know. So if you compare just 1 year, you could compare an upperclassman. Maybe, you know, Sean Elliott towards the end of his career is just, it's hard to really compare anybody to him. He was so good. And maybe that's when you saw him at his best. I guess if you looked at maybe Sean Elliott, guys like him in just their freshman year, nothing else. And that's what you really have to do when you ask the question. And all I will say is, if you're looking at a freshman, somebody who has impacted this program, his team, been consistent, I think it'd be hard to beat him. It really would. And that goes also with this season in college basketball. I mean, he's, I think, one of the country's best players.
He's the most talented, perhaps, in the conference. Other coaches have said that. Do you think he should be the player of the year in the conference?
A lot of those things take care of themselves if at the end of the regular season you have the most wins. If you're the conference champion, with team success comes individual accolades, as you know, especially in all conference voting and those types of things. But, I think he's in the mix. And a lot will depend on how we finish.
Along those lines, what I was talking about transition, you were talking about defense. Do you see some strides being made on that end, on the defensive end?
I do. And this was going to be the case. It's not going to just, flip the switch and all of a sudden, you're night and day better. But I think we're moving in a positive direction. And now we have to keep moving in that direction. That's the whole key with us. And if you look at statistics, we're doing a better job defending the three-point shot. And I don't think we've fouled as much recently. Those are two really key areas to our defense. There are so many possessions this season that the shot clock is under 10, or the offensive player isn't in an advantaged position, and we bail them out by fouling. And a lot of times that does a number of things. They score on the possession. They get into the bonus quicker. Sometimes one of our starters has to sit down. So fouling and defending the three, that continues to be something that we reinforce every day.
Is it being more aggressive on the perimeter, or because that's where you needed the help or whatever, you needed to be more outside, whatever. But is it being more aggressive or just being smarter at it?
A little bit of both. I mean, and transition also favors the other team. Turnovers, we had quite a few against ASU, and I could say that our defense might have been the best that it's been all Pac-12 season, because they scored quite a few points off of our turnovers. And considering that, they weren't necessarily scoring as easily against our half-court defense. So, but we're making improvements. DeAndre has a lot to do with that as well. He's improving on defense. He has a lot of ability, and it takes a while to figure a team out sometimes. And I think we pretty much know the personalities of our team on defense, what maybe brings out the best in us, and we just have to keep reinforcing it.
When you say that, because again, those 2 points you made, they responded on Thursday. So, do you go over game film as far as showing them again, hey, this was good, where you didn't foul here, or what do you do to reinforce it? Because you can talk, especially this late in the season, maybe guys are
a little bit of everything. Film, them watching themselves. Sometimes not watching themselves make a mistake, but actually watching themselves not foul, where you're able to show good stops. We call those identity clips. This is what we want to look like. This is what, if you watch Arizona play, this is what we pride ourselves in looking like. And sometimes you go down that path, it's nice for them, for our team to see, we can do it. I can do it. That's what it looks like when you do it. And then when you show the other side of it, when mistakes are made, I think it balances out. So we do that, and then, obviously practice is still important. At the very, very end here of February, there's those teams that have kind of cashed it in. They don't have a whole lot to play for. You got teams that are playing, with their hair on fire because they're playing for a high seed, a conference championship, or maybe even an at-large bid, and they're desperate in a good way. And, teams start going in different categories. But the one thing that we want to continue to do is maybe we won't practice quite as long, but we have to continue to practice very hard and get better and improve, because that's what we can control. Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday is going to set the tone for our trip to Oregon. We can't just fast forward to the game.
But would you take a couple days off after Thursday, or what was your?
We took Friday off, and then we took Sunday off, and we practiced on Saturday.
With those opportunities, do you do more on yourselves, than maybe not needing to look necessarily forward to Oregon?
When we practice on Saturday, that's what we did.
In your time here, would you say that Dusan is probably the most improved player since you coached here? I think you'd like a Kyle Fogg, someone together like that, but is Dusan that guy?
Yes. No doubt. Solomon Hill and Dusan have a lot of similarities. You know, Solomon might have been more highly ranked, but, you know, he's from the United States. He's from L.A., played at a prominent high school, was on the travel team circuit. Dusan wasn't, so his notoriety wasn't as significant. But, you know, Solomon was a solid younger player for us, a very, you know, important figure in our development as a program. But comparing him as a senior to when he was younger, night and day. I mean, he really got better, and I would put Dusan and him as the top two.
Dusan's almost automatic offensively. I mean, just that 5-footer, that 7-footer, I mean, it's your go-to guy. He's been your guy for the last 7 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, and, you know, I think, talk about chemistry, Dusan and DeAndre have really developed a nice chemistry on offense when they're in the game together. They really understand each other. They look for each other. They can sometimes play off of one another. You know, a lot of our offensive rebounds stem from, you know, one of them really understanding the other, and they put themselves in good rebound position. But, you know, when both guys are scoring and we are getting them the ball and they're getting high percentage shots, I mean, shot percentage at this point in the season doesn't lie. And if you look at Dusan and DeAndre's field goal percentage and you add that up, you know, that's our best bet right now offensively.
Despite what you said about Dusan earlier, it would be nice to break that tie between Matt and Caleb. If you do plus Wheeler.
Yeah, whenever it comes, I mean, obviously we have to take it one day at a time, but yeah, no doubt. It'd be nice. It would be fitting that somebody who's spent as much time away from home, that's worked as hard as he has, that could be considered one of the most improved players in our program's history. And I would say that if you look all the way, he would probably be right there as somebody to compare with another former Arizona player that, you know, man, did they get better from the time they walked in until they left. So be very fitting and appropriate if he would be the guy who left here with the most wins.
How's the overall health of your team right now?
It's good, and you know this rivalry week came at a good time for us. You know, each year it's different. You know, we've had it sometimes on the last week of the regular season. We've had it, you know, separated by only like 3 or 4 weeks, almost like the Colorado-Utah deal this year, where you played and then a couple weeks went by and you played again. But I think that we had a real healthy stretch of playing 2 games a week. You start getting towards the end of February. You could sense you need a break, and we did, and we have to take advantage of it now. You know, we gave the guys a couple days off. We have an extra day to practice here, and I like to think that we'll enter this Oregon swing, you know, fresh and healthy.
How much more do you know about your team now than you did maybe in early January or so?
Yeah, I mean, every week you're together, every game, every experience you go through, you're more comfortable. And maybe you're more comfortable with things you don't like, but you certainly know your strengths and weaknesses. That's for sure. And that allows us to really spend time on the right things and making sure that we're developing those things. Because, like I said a little bit ago, those types of teams that are right now late in February, entering the final stages of a regular season, that continue to practice hard and well and smart. It's amazing how much improvement you can really get here at the end because, you know, guys know their role now. If your team's chemistry is good, you don't have to worry about that. Everybody's focused on March Madness, and I think you have your team's attention. And, you know, this practice setup here, not just going from game to game. It's so easy to do it this time of year, but making sure that practice is the most important thing.
Realizing your focus is on the end of the season, but I was just curious, there was a couple of reports last week that this federal thing could go way beyond the initial thing and touch a bunch of schools, and I don't know if you had any reaction to that or
No, my focus is on our team.
Sean, I think I missed last week, I think there was, Alkin said that there had been a team meeting, but they got together and talked. How important is that, I think?
After UCLA, right?
It could be, yeah. And how, sometimes those are really good, and they work out really well, and sometimes they don't. But it seems like this team got together and found themselves, if you will. Do you sense that, or what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes team meetings, they can be overblown or overstated. If your team's constantly having them, that's probably not good either. But, over the long journey of a season, there's going to be a couple times where that's needed. And we've had those times. And, somebody like Dusan, I'm sure, has been at the forefront of those conversations. But I believe that we have a team that cares about each other. They know we have high expectations, and we've all worked really hard. I was, thinking about it driving in here today. I mean, you go back to practicing, getting ready to go to Spain. That would have been mid-August, early August. We really have started at that point. And although, you're not playing games, that's when things started. And it's 6 months ago. That's a while we've been together. So here we are down the stretch. You want to be at your best. And I think we have a group of guys that are focused on the right things.
Raleigh said last week, I think after you came in, that he wanted to go back to a regular routine and do everything everyone else was doing. I didn't know if you were okay with that at this point. You figure maybe it's better for him, or what's
Well, it's all about his pain. Right now he has zero pain. And with zero pain, he's able to do whatever we have planned. And this break comes at a great time for him as well, because he's been able to get a couple days off and focus for the stretch run. Like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we were hoping that the pain would subside and that he could be with us, in everything that we do all the way to the end. And knock on wood, I think that's where he's headed right now.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.